All right, in fifth grade, we were working last week. We made some triangles, and once we made our triangle page, then we started designing it with colors. So you are supposed to do 2 of those pages. So that's what they're working on this week if they haven't gotten them done. I have done a couple examples here, but I kept these the same, all right? And once they get made, then you're going to take some scissors and we're going to rip the page out of our sketchbook. All right. We're going to want to trim the edge where we ripped it out. So the very top part here. Probably even have them draw a line so that they know where to follow. And then we are going to start cutting on the lines for our triangles. All right. And the end pieces are going to be just a little bit smaller, all right? That's kind of a tiny triangle. And then we'll have our regular size ones. Now we'll want to make sure that we've colored the whole page. This is a Xerox copy, that's why there's a little bit of white on the bottom of each of these. I think I'm going to leave it. We did also discuss that you could leave some white behind. All right, so you get the idea. We're cutting on all of these triangle pieces. A great one to start with this next part would be on the tinier one. All right, I'm going to trim a little bit of this white off because it will show up. But if you went all the way to the edge like you were supposed to and don't have a Xerox copy, then you should be fine. All right. Oops. Cut happy here. All right. So we'll trim that up. All right. So the thinner one is a great one to start with. What we want to do is we want to have something to wrap our triangle around. And so I have a longer kind of Dr. Cotton swab here. You could use a regular cotton swab and then maybe just cut off the ends, so because we're going to need to slide the bead off. But that's a pretty good thickness. You could use a pencil. Pencil's a little bit thicker. You're going to get more of a round area. We want something just a little bit tinier with our, this is about the radius of one of those cotton swabs. All right. Toothpick might be too small. Maybe a skewer, if you've got a wood skewer. Those usually work for grilling and cooking. All right. So now I've got some glue, and I'm going to use liquid glue. The stick glue does not work the greatest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on the very end. You'll notice I'm not on the very, very end. I came up just a little bit. All right. And then I'm just going to go with a real thin line right down the middle all the way to the point. All right. And I have to be careful because as I wrap this, you notice I glued it on the non-color side. I have to pick this up a little bit. When I wrap this, I don't want the stick to roll into the glue or it will stick together. So that's why I went a little ways away. And you'll see how I'm holding it. I've got my fingers underneath and I've got my thumbs on top. And I'm just going to kind of rock it back and forth. And it looks like I am a little too close here, so I'm going to wipe off some of that glue so that it doesn't stick to it. And then I am going to start to roll this up. And my first one, I want to make sure that I get that roll going underneath. Now before I get too far, I'm going to make sure that I can move the wooden skewer or the cotton swab. I can make sure I can move that. And then I want to try to keep this centered. So I'm rolling this up, and it's kind of leaning to one way. So I can kind of manipulate it a little bit. And I'm pinching pretty hard here to keep it in the center. And I can start to see that my colors are starting to form. And again, I just want to try to keep this right in the middle. And it is a smaller one, so it's going to be a little bit tinier of a bead. And that point should go right on down the middle. Now, I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to the very end. And again, I want to make sure Even though I was pinching pretty hard, I want to make sure that I can move the skewer. But there's going to be my first bead, so I'm just going to kind of twist this, hold her gently, and I want to make sure that that all stayed down. All right, and so I've got my first bead made. It's got some nice colors to it. All right, looks like it turned out pretty well. I'm going to start working on one of the larger ones. All right, set that off to the side. Again, when you start, I would put the glue up pretty high. All right, I was a little low on my last one there. I want to make sure that I can be able to roll this around a little bit before it actually hits the glue. So I've got a little glue there, real thin. You do not need very much. This paper is not very thick at all. All right. Again, I glued on the non-color side. So this is going to be a little bit better. It's a little higher up. The other one worked out pretty good. But again, I've got my thumbs and my fingers. I'm kind of rocking it back and forth until it gets that little curl. And then it's going to roll underneath. And then I'm going to get some of that glue. And that glue is going to start pushing to the sides. And it will start holding it down for me. And then I just got to make sure that as I roll this and keep going, that my point stays pretty close to the center. And I can move it out a little bit. And I don't want to rip it, but so that glue is going to ooze out. And we'll get a little bit of it on the very end. That turned out pretty well. That's some nice colors on there. Almost a stained glass. I forgot to check, but since I didn't put the glue very low, it should slide off fairly easy. And then I'm just going to let that bead dry. So we're going to make a bunch of those. They're going to get a little plastic baggie to keep them in. And then I'm going to keep cutting and keep rolling. All right? That's what we're working on for this week. Next week, we will, I'll show you how to put them together. And they're also going to work on a poster for Battle of the Books. So really focus on getting your coloring done for your sheet. Once that's done, then you can cut them out. And then we can start rolling them around until we got some nice beads here. All right, that's a great color. So good luck, have fun, and next week I'll show you how to put them together. All right.